Welcome to Countywide. I'm Paul David. As always, it is great to have you in studio today. We're sitting down with Sue Rutherford, Arizona Crisis Team Executive Director. Website is azcrisisteam.org. azcrisisteam.org. That's a great place to go for all the information we'll be talking about today. Also, you've got some classes. First of all, welcome back, Sue.
Thank you.
It's been a
Thank
year.
you
We
for
talked about how
having me.
fast the year had gone by.
It goes fast.
It goes really fast. You've got a couple of training sessions coming up. Why don't we hit those first, and then we'll get into what the Arizona Crisis Team is.
Great. Yes, we have 2 trainings going on for our volunteers.
Okay.
Over here in the Verde Valley, Sedona side, we have it starting May 16th.
Okay.
And over on the Prescott side of the mountain, it starts May 2nd.
Okay, May 2nd. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, got it. All right, so we'll make sure we mention that multiple times throughout the show, and then how you get in touch with Sue or just sign up for the classes and participate in them. Let's get right into it. What is Arizona Crisis Team? Because that changed last year, and we're a full year now under our belts with the Arizona Crisis Team.
Yes, actually going on 2 years now,
2.
almost, yes.
Okay, so tell us all about it.
We are a crisis response group, volunteer-based, and we are called out by the firefighters, the police officers, or the hospital when there's been any type of crisis. In 2000, our volunteer group started under what was called Trauma Intervention Program, and then we changed in 2017 to now we're the Arizona Crisis Team.
Okay.
So we've been around for 19 years,
From
actually.
tips to act.
Yeah.
From tips to act, okay.
Tips to act,
Okay.
yes. So they call us when there's been any type of crisis. Most often it is death related, but it's any type of crisis. It could be a medical emergency. It could be like a death, like I said, which could be a suicide or a homicide or a natural death. It could be a structure fire, anything where somebody's going through a crisis. And then our volunteers are called on scene to be with the family, the friends, the victim, depending on what it is, during the first few hours of the crisis.
You've go to auto crashes, I saw too. Mm-hmm. If there's a terrible auto crashes, which we've had our share in Yavapai County. So there's got to be some crashes you guys have probably responded to as well.
Yes, most of the time we'll be called to the hospital for those, but every once in a while it's on scene. Sometimes the law enforcement doesn't see it safe for us out there on the scene, so they'll make sure, that we go to the hospital if they're transported there.
I hate to ask you this, but how busy have you been in the last year? It seems to me in my job, it's gotten really busy over the last year.
Yes, we're busier.
Things have changed so much.
We're busier this last 12 months than we were probably for a few years. It is busier, and our the suicide rate is much higher, so we're very busy with deaths by suicide.
I heard Yavapai County was like some of the highest suicide rates in the
U.S.
In the U.S.
Yes.
Not just the state, but the U.S.
Right. We're high for the state, and then Arizona is high for the U.S.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's got to keep you busy.
Yeah.
How many volunteers do you have?
Currently, we have about 55 volunteers.
That's pretty good.
Well, and that's for both sides of the mountain.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not bad, but they're busy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, are you more populated on that side of the mountain with volunteers or this side?
On the Prescott side, and that's because the population's higher over there. So obviously, we probably have about 35 volunteers over there and about 15 over here. So.
Well, we need more over here.
Yes, we do. Yeah. And our volunteers, what they do is they volunteer for 3 12-hour shifts a month. So because we're available 24/7. We can be called out anytime, anywhere. So our volunteers volunteer for 3 12-hour shifts a month. They pick their shifts. We do 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. or 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. They pick when they want to be on during the month. And then if a call comes out during their time they're on call, they go out.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So,
and that's happening more and more often now.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Though it tends to be runs. We have some volunteers, they just hardly get called out because the shifts they happen to pick, there's nothing that's going on. And the others, they're out all the time.
I would have to say Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You would think so. Mm-hmm. But not always. For certain type of calls, it's going to be that. Mm-hmm. More often for a natural death, it's going to be, for us, in the morning, early morning, even a weekday, it doesn't matter.
Somebody doesn't wake up.
Right.
Yeah.
Their loved one finds them when they wake up in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've talked in the past. We've done this show with you now. I want to say 3 or 4 years now in a row. We've had you in.
Yeah, it's been longer, I think.
Yeah, maybe so. But Sue always sends me an email and says, "Hey, I've got the trainings coming up. So can we get a show on it and get some volunteers drawn up?" So okay. So you get a phone call. This is how this starts. Okay, so is it you that gets the phone call, and then you contact the person that's the volunteer, or the volunteer? I mean, because you're talking about all different agencies. I was looking at your website this morning, and it's just a whole list of agencies all across Yavapai County.
Right.
They don't know the individual volunteers who are going to be showing up.
Correct. Okay. Good question. The logistics of how it goes is we have our own dispatchers, just like a 911 center does. So we have about 12 volunteers that dispatch, and they take shifts where they're the one who's covered. All our dispatchers have a phone, a cell phone that's ACT. It belongs to ACT. It's a dispatch phone. The 911 centers in the hospital text into that, and that goes to all of them, all our dispatchers. And whichever dispatcher's on duty, they jump in and handle it. So then our dispatcher contacts the on-duty volunteer. Okay. So nothing ever changes between us and the 911 center. It's these basic phone numbers, cells, and most of the stuff's done by texting, other than our dispatch does talk to the 911 center.
Is an ACT volunteer, I've lost my train of thought. I was going to ask you a question. Let's take a break. I'll come back, and I should have it together by then. Training for ACT is coming up. The Arizona Crisis Team on May 2nd in Prescott, May 16th in the Verde Valley. azcrisisteam.org is the website. Countywide, back in just a couple minutes.
Do you feel like people are avoiding you? Don't be a dreaded spreader. Protect yourself and those around you from flu. Here's 3 things you should do. Get a flu vaccine each year. Take everyday preventive actions to stop the spread of germs, like covering coughs and sneezes and washing your hands, and stay home if you're sick. If you do get the flu, contact a healthcare professional right away and take flu antivirals if prescribed. Don't be a dreaded spreader. Take 3 steps to fight flu.
Most of us want to make some type of difference in the lives of others. St. Jude does miraculous work.
The fact that no one has to pay, it's a place where everyone is treated as an equal.
Everybody is welcome here, and it doesn't matter, your religion or, what part of the world you're from, that just sort of all that is taken away. It just gives you some hope.
Yo siento que soy parte de esa bendición que ese niño recibió al irse a su casa ya sanado.
It's just a nice feeling to put your energy into something that really does genuinely make a difference in a child's life.
There's just no greater gift. If we have the ability to help, then we have a responsibility to help.
Mandalay Homes introduces the new Ion Series, a revolutionary new approach to home building innovation and energy management. Built on a foundation of industry-leading energy efficiency and sustainable building practices, the Ion Series home redefines how we use and manage renewable energy. Contact a Mandalay Home sales executive today to learn more, or visit one of our Ion Series communities throughout northern Arizona.
Welcome back to Countywide. It's great to have you along. I've remembered my question for Sue Rutherford with the Arizona Crisis Team. When dispatch, 911 dispatch, if I call dispatch and say my wife has passed away, they will call, I would imagine it would be like Cottonwood Fire.
Right.
The police would respond as well. Do you automatically get a call from the 911 dispatch center as well? Or when these folks arrive at the home, the Cottonwood Police and Fire say, they arrive at the house, then do they decide whether or not ACT shows up?
Actually, the answer is both.
Okay.
There are certain type of calls that when the fire engine is dispatched for something, it also connects into us, and we will be dispatched. And it's really more to give us a heads up so we can get the volunteer there quicker. Our ACT dispatcher actually still will call the 911 center to confirm they're needed, but it helps us get somebody there a little quicker. So for certain type of calls, usually we call it like a multi-engine response. So there's several incidences, maybe a suicide, something like that. And then they know they can always call us off. It's not too uncommon that we have a volunteer going to a call and they call back and go, listen, not needed, don't come.
I think maybe like an apartment complex fire where there's multiple families displaced. There'd probably be, because I know the Red Cross goes to those, because I'll see those press releases too. Red Cross volunteers turned out at such and such a location. But ACT volunteers are probably there as well sometimes.
Right, and we're usually the ones who initiate Red Cross.
Okay.
So on a...
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay.
Because our response time is 30 minutes.
I was going to ask you that next, because I remember that over the years you've said that you want to be there.
We're very quick.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're there so quickly, and part of our goal is to get, if it's for Red Cross, to get them initiated. So we'll work with the system through Red Cross to get them going. But Red Cross's response time is not like ours. So that's why we'll be there first. We'll start dealing with things, and then we get them in because that's their role.
Okay. All right. Now, we've always talked about this, and we really need to make a point of this. It takes a special kind of person to be an ACT volunteer. We've talked about in the years past, I would not be a good ACT volunteer. But tell us kind of what you're looking for.
Okay.
What abilities do I have to be able to do to handle this kind of a job? Because it's sensitive.
Right. It's
very sensitive.
It's very. And it's probably one of the most difficult type of things to volunteer for, because you're with people on their worst day in their life. So you have to be able to handle that. Of course, it has to be somebody who's caring. They want to do something. But you also have to not be able to then carry that weight on your shoulders afterwards, if that makes sense. I think that's why my husband couldn't do it either, he took it home a lot. It was hard for him. And we train you how to do that. And we have a great support system, a great way that we support each other in dealing with the tragedies. You have to be caring. You have to be diplomatic, because you're dealing with a lot of different type of people, and all the agencies, the fire and the law, and law agencies in the hospital. You have to be responsible, dependable, because if you're on that shift, we're depending on you to be there, so.
Okay.
And we can train anybody. We have retired nurses, we have retired social workers, counselors, firefighters. But it doesn't matter what your past was. We'll train you to be able to do this.
Are you really good listeners?
Yes.
You're really good listeners, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this in the past too, because Sue's been here, is that I'm one of those fixer guys.
Yeah.
You tell me you've got a problem, and I'm going to be, how do we fix this? We got to fix it now. I want to fix it now and make you feel better right now.
Yes.
And that is not what you're looking for.
We have to fix you to not do that.
Right, right.
Yes.
And I don't know that you could break that one, but.
That's tough. But, in training, we'll learn somebody who just can't, if they could not get past that. And my husband, when he actually went through training he wanted to just be able to learn how to listen, how to be with people in a tragedy, so that he could be better with people, but he wasn't going to volunteer. And so he went through a class, and I think that was in 2006, and the class talked him into volunteering, which was not good. But his concern was he was a fixer, like you say you are, and he got beyond that. He was able to then improve and not do that. So it was really good. Now, personally, sometimes we all still want to go, well, here's what you should do. I mean, I'm a retired nurse. I have that fixer thing in me,
and multiple years of experience doing this, too. So you've seen a lot of these different scenarios.
Yes,
so this is, if you go down this route,
yes.
it'll probably help you out faster.
Yes.
So how do you,
So you learn not to fix. You learn to maybe give suggestions, but it's how you word it. Really. So you can be a fixer, but you're going to learn how to word it so that you're not telling them what to do and giving them the option, So,
okay. All right. Maybe telling them by asking a question. Well, maybe, what if, have you considered doing something like this?
Yeah.
All right. And I guess I would think body language, too, would be something you really got to pay attention to.
Yes. Yeah. And the first 4 days of training is all about your body language, the words you say, the words you don't say, just everything you do. So it's pretty intense the first 4 days.
Okay. Is there refresher training that goes on in ACT?
For volunteers.
Yeah, for volunteers.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, I told you I was going to ask you this before the show, we'll get these things like Coconino County Sheriff's Office and Summit Fire are going to meet at Cromer School next week and do sort of a drill, just sort of a test. Okay, if there was some kind of an incident going on at this school, how would we respond to it? How would we deal with it? We have those things going on in Yavapai County all the time too. Does ACT participate in some of those events as well?
Sometimes. It depends on the agency, and that they'll ask for us to participate, but it's more of us doing it on our end, because with what they do in their drills is really not related, not what we do. You know, they just get us on scene, and that's pretty much all they care about, as long as we're doing it correctly. But we have monthly meetings, and we're always rehashing and reworking things. And then the volunteers can attend part of our volunteer training to do a refresher if they want to. But we meet 3 hours each month.
Okay.
So, and always talking about what works, what doesn't work, everybody giving ideas.
Because prior to the show, you talked about a couple of different major incidents that involved quite a few people that you were called into.
Yes. We were, when the 19 firefighters died with the Yarnell incident, we were on that. We always usually have one volunteer on duty, and that night we had one volunteer, but within 30 minutes we had 12 volunteers there. We have a system of notifying everybody and anybody who can respond. So is
there a time where it's like all hands on deck?
Oh yeah.
So that is a possibility. Anybody thinking about volunteering should know that too.
They're not required.
Not required, but how would you not want to respond to something like that?
And that's
what
they want to be there for the sweat lodge incident we had in Sedona. Same thing. We had volunteers, many volunteers there all night. Our dispatchers, they'll send out a group text to all the volunteers for depending on which side of the mountain it is. So let's say the Verde Valley. It would go to all the Verde Valley volunteers going, we've got this going on, anybody who can come. And of course we always have the volunteer on duty there quickly, and the others might take up to an hour, but if they can go, they go. If they can't, they don't.
Okay, so Verde Valley volunteers respond to Verde Valley Sedona things.
Yes, and
Village
the Prescott
Creek,
area,
Quad Cities area.
Right, so on this side, on the Verde Valley side, we work with Sedona, so the Sedona Police, Sedona Fire. We're over in, we work with Yavapai County Sheriff's Office, so we're in Rimrock, parts of Cottonwood,
Sure.
we're
All the unincorporated
wherever
areas.
that they are. We're with Verde Valley Fire District, so we're covering Cornville,
Verde Villages.
Yeah, the Verde Villages and
Bridgeport.
Yes, the whole area in Cottonwood and Clarkdale and Cornville. So we're with, and then the hospital.
You got the whole county covered.
Pretty much. I mean,
much.
when it goes.
Are there some outlying areas that are difficult?
Where
if you had to have a volunteer come up and say, I want to volunteer, I'm thinking Baghdad, Skull Valley, Paulden, Ash Fork.
Yes, Ash Fork.
Those outlying areas.
Some of the outlying areas we get called to, and we'll find a volunteer who can go there, but they don't have to promise. Oh, no.
It could be tough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because impossible. Black Canyon City, Ash Fork, some of those areas.
Right.
And I do as staff. I'm in those areas quite often as staff, because the volunteer's already busy on a call. Well, I'll go, but you got to let the sheriff's department know it's going to be an hour and a half for me to get there.
Okay, all right. Arizona Crisis Team Executive Director Sue Rutherford is in studio today. The website is azcrisisteam.org. Training coming up on May 2nd in the Quad City area, May 16th in the Verde Valley. Countywide will be back in just a couple minutes.
What does it look like when a life is truly changed?
I feel a sense of accomplishment because I built a house. This house has brought us financial independence.
It's a great place to raise a family.
Strength, fuerza. When I look back where we've come from to where we are today, it makes my heart very happy.
Potential. Potencia.
For me, this house means all of us together.
So, together.
Security.
Security.
Every family dreams to have their own house. This house changed our lives.
Habitat for Humanity is at work in your community and around the world. Through shelter, we empower.
We develop quality citizens who keep our core, our country, and our communities side by side on the winning side. Not for glory, but for honor. For a code that isn't written or spoken, but lived. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's the battle cry of our fighting spirit. Battles won. See all the battles Marines fight to win at marines.com.
Welcome back to Countywide. Just a couple minutes left in the program. Arizona Crisis Team Executive Director Sue Rutherford in studio. azcrisisteam.org is the website. May 2nd is training coming up in the Quad City area. May 16th in the Verde Valley. We need more volunteers in the Verde Valley than we do in Prescott, but you're not going to say no to somebody who wants to volunteer.
Right. As long as they successfully complete the training, I won't say no.
Let's hit the training up real quick, too. So what kind of training am I looking at when I say, Sue, I'm interested, this sounds like something I can do?
Okay, so it's 9 days of training, or evenings, you might say. The first 4, it's always a Thursday evening, Friday evening, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. And that is the time where we go over what to say, what not to say, how to be with people.
The do's and don'ts of being an ACT volunteer.
And what they're experiencing, what we're trying to explain to our trainees, what are people going through and why. So we go through that. Then we have the fire agencies who come in and talk. Chief Moore does that to talk how to work on their scene, what's going on during a structure fire, so on. Law enforcement comes in and it's going to be Monica Colt.
Okay, Sergeant Monica Colt, Cottonwood PD.
And she'll talk about how to work on a law enforcement scene, the police scene. Then we have the 911 center. They go through that. The hospital, how to work at the hospital, where to go, what to do. Then, of course, all the policies and procedures, and that takes at least 2 evenings. So.
When does
and the funeral homes, I'm sorry.
Oh, the funeral homes too.
That's a big deal with the medical examiner's office and the funeral home.
That first time you get a call and says, hey, you're the volunteer, you got to show up, that's got to be a little nerve-wracking for somebody,
I think
right?
it is. I think everybody's always nervous on their first call. We try to let them know they're not really alone. They might physically be alone there with them, but their dispatcher is always connected to them by phone. We can get another volunteer there with them, whatever they need.
Okay, so if I'm there and I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, what's going on, and it's my first call, or maybe it's my 10th call, and it's something I've just not seen yet.
Yes.
The dispatcher, the person, maybe it's you, Sue. I can call you up and say, wow, I'm having a really tough time with this. I'm not quite sure if I'm doing this right or wrong.
Yeah.
Do you give suggestions, or would you just roll right out there with them?
Both. It depends on what they need.
Okay.
Sometimes the volunteers looking, what kind of resources? I'm not sure what to give this person, or I'm questioning this. And they don't make that call in front of their clients, we call it. They'll step away. If they're feeling like it's kind of odd out there, the scene, law enforcement's there with them, of course, but if they're just a little unsure, we'll send another volunteer so that you have 2 people working together.
Okay, we don't have much time left, but the idea here and the goal is, if I remember right when this first started, was that firefighters and police agencies are there. They've got a job to do, and they really don't have, it's not that they don't have the time, but they're doing this part of the job, and the poor victim is sitting back here kind of going, what do I do? And that's where Sue and the volunteers come in, and you get to pick up there so that these guys and gals can do their jobs and take care of the scene.
They can continue their job and get back into service, and then we'll deal with this side of it.
That side of it. Okay, we're out of time. Sue,
thank you.
Always great to see you. azcrisisteam.org, again, the website, azcrisisteam.org. Thank you for watching and listening. It's always great to have you along. We'll talk to you again next time.